Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Wendy and I am, I thought maybe it might be nice to have some little chats about being vegan and, what it's like and, so that we can share from each other's experiences. I travel a lot, and so, one of the things that I noticed, I've talked to a few different people, because anytime someone hears that, oh, you're vegan, they either say, "Oh, well, I've never been." They have certain responses. I never thought I would be able to do that, or "Oh, I did that once and I had trouble because of this," or "Oh, yeah, I'm vegan too," which happens occasionally, and it's always wonderful to run into other vegans. But it's you wear this on your sleeve. This is not the sort of thing that you can really keep to yourself, just because people that you're interacting with notice. They notice either what you're wearing or they notice what you're eating. And so it can be very challenging sometimes to be private. And it's not that you want to be private about it. It's not that it's anything that, to be ashamed of. It's something we need to get the word out on. And I think that, the idea of sharing this outside of ourselves just comes naturally because, like I said, we're wearing it. It's pretty much all over us. I don't really need to wear a pendant, although I would love to get one that says I'm vegan, because I think that most people who know me have figured that out. They wondered why I shrunk. First of all, I lost what I call my dairy weight. And so they've noticed that, or they look at my skin and they're like, "Oh my gosh, what are you doing? What are you using?" And or they just they notice my teeth are whiter, or they notice that whatever it is that people pick up on, or they just might notice what I'm eating, or I might have said, "Oh, well, I can't eat that," and they'll say, "Oh, why are you on a special diet?" And of course I say, "Well, I'm vegan." And "Oh, how long have you been vegan?" And so it sparks up a conversation. Occasionally, very occasionally, it leads to discomfort of others, and I think that just comes out of our sense, when we're eating, when we're pretty much consuming whatever's in sight. We have an understanding on some level that we're probably eating a lot of things that aren't the best for us, and we are conscious of that. And when we see somebody who's on a diet, or when we see somebody who's cutting certain things out of what they're eating, or when we see somebody who just has portion control, we always think that's a little, I don't know, we think they've got great stamina, or we think that, but we always think somehow that they're not always going to stay that way. So I think that's the one thing that I find the funniest is when people say, "Oh, are you still vegan?" Well, yeah, I'm pretty much going to be that way forever. And that's not really something that I really ever could consider changing. It is who I am, and it is, when they say it's more than a diet, it's a lifestyle, it really is a lifestyle. And you don't notice that happening when you first start out, especially if you do it the way we did it. My boyfriend and I went vegan together, and we started out, we watched the movie Forks Over Knives, which, a lot of people have that same story. We watched that movie and we, haven't looked back. And it was really, that was the precipitator, that was the trigger. But what really created this whole process for us was the research that I was just inspired to do immediately, and in large quantities. I was like a sponge. It was almost like that movie made me porous, and I could just absorb everything around me that was associated with being vegan. And I looked at the pros and the cons, which admittedly there were just hardly any negative information out there that wasn't ludicrous. My dog was eating the cat's food, so of course that was something I had to take care of. So there wasn't any really negative information out there that really could be found. And there was a few things where people had, posted things, and there was, just a few little odds and ends out there, but the predominant amount of information out there was on the positive side, with maybe a few precautions, because people keep getting hung up on the calcium and the B12 and, you know, all these other things that you hear about. And they're able to gain momentum because they say it and then it gets said again and then it gets said again. And then eventually it becomes like somehow truth without actually having any substance to it. So anyways, there was a lot of research that I had to do, and I had to absorb the positive and the negative in order to really get to the truth. And I watched hours and hours and hours of videos from people talking about their experiences to, you know, just people just, you know, in general, just talking about different things. And I even watched, I think, a couple of like seminars or debates and things like that. And I really, as I went along, and then I started looking at recipes, I started reading up on, you know, substitutes, because that became like, I think foremost in my mind was the utility part of it. Is not whether or not it's hard or whether or not I'm going to go through stages or whether, you know, those things. It was mostly, okay, how can we do this? Because there was one time in my life when I was in college, when I was first in college, very young, and I had to do a speech on cruelty to animals. And as a result, well, it was my subject matter that I chose. And I did a lot of research. And by the time I was done with that research, really kind of in the middle of doing that research, I could no longer eat meat or eggs or, you know, milk or, you know, which I didn't really eat anyways. So I really I completely went off meat, eggs, and milk, which of course everything else to go along with it. And 3 weeks later, because of my complete and utter failure in researching on how to, replace those things in my diet, I failed. And it was just because of my naivety. I mean, I guess I just thought I could eat whatever was left. If I just removed those things from my diet, I could just eat whatever was left over in my regular meals, that I didn't need to add vegetables or legumes or seeds or, you know, bread or, you know, because I didn't eat those things. I didn't eat a lot of, I ate a lot of vegetables, but I didn't eat a lot of pasta or bread or rice or beans or, you know, none of that stuff was part of my regular diet, because when you eat meat, and for me anyways, those things were problematic. And once I stopped eating meat, of course I could eat those things, but it didn't occur to me then because I was very young. And so I had this major failure. And when I went into this the second time, I thought about that. It did run through my mind that I had had a failure before, but I was older and wiser, and I was able to look out there and say, okay, well, this is how you replace things, and this is how you do this. And of course, the movie Forks Over Knives was extremely informative on that at that count as well. I mean, it gives you the tools. It gives you all of the tools you need for a good beginning. And that now I understand that they also have meal plans, so that if you really want to start out without necessarily having to cook your own meals, you can actually get meals from Forks Over Knives and be able to start down that road, that transition road, I guess I would call it. Now, I didn't taper off. We didn't taper off at all. We just stopped eating those products. We stopped eating any kind of meat, anything, that had any animal product in it at all. We stopped eating it. I had to completely clean out my pantry, my refrigerator. It all had to go. My freezer. And there was a lot. There was a lot of stuff that had to go. So that was part of the process. And then we went out and we bought what we could eat. And we started that process. It was a little rough, I'd say, the first week, and maybe the first 2 weeks while I was learning what the heck I should do. And we were trying different things, and I hadn't really figured it out yet. But it never once really did we want to stop what we were doing, because we noticed we were feeling better. We felt better after we ate. We started to, we had some, there were some transitional things that were going on in our GI tract and things like that, but there was nothing that ever made us want to stop it. And I think that was just more and more encouraging. And we would continue looking for more video, documentation on veganism, and we watched every documentary that was ever made, except Earthlings, which we didn't watch. We tried, and it was really early on. I think we were so sensitive that it was more than we could take, because we were still in the process of forgiving ourselves, I think, for having taken part in the slaughter of animals by eating them for so many years. You kind of, like, early on, you're really ultra sensitive, and it's just really, it really kind of, it hurts that you did that. And so I think after some time went by, then we were able to watch the movie. It still was difficult to watch, and admittedly my ears were plugged and my eyes were closed through certain portions of it, but we will continue to watch these movies, just to take it in. I think you have to do it in bits, because really you're completely taking off blinders that you've worn for so many years, and to open yourself up to the world of really understanding what's going on is difficult, and it's a process that we have to go through. We have to be kind to ourselves. I think we really have to be kind to others. What I see going on in some parts of the vegan community is hard to watch, but I also know that these are people who are going through that process of trying to forgive themselves, and the way they're choosing to do that is to trying to make everybody else understand how awful it is that we eat animals, but it isn't necessarily productive overall, but we have to understand too that that's what that's what they need to do. Hopefully they will not stay in that pattern of being mean to other people, but we all go through it differently, and I try to stay off of the forums and things like that where everybody's just bashing everybody, because that might not have anything to do with veganism. That just might be the daytime talk television version of the vegan community, and we're talking bad about people, and we're picking on Beyonce, and we're picking on this other person and this person and this company, because this company is owned by a parent company that tests on animals, that they must be evil, even though they have their mission statement and their vision and everything else is completely cruelty-free and vegan, that we would possibly not buy their products. I think that we're missing the forest for the trees in that. I know that's maybe not the right use of that expression, but that we can't see the forest for the trees, because we're focusing on things that are good in principle, but we have to understand that we're not going to change the world overnight. We're going to change the world one cruelty-free product at a time. And personally, I would like cruelty-free to mean vegan. That's my personal opinion. But am I going to tell everybody else that's buying cruelty-free products that, oh, well, they're not really cruelty-free? No, of course not, because it's something. And little by little, I think people are going to come to their own conclusions on that. I mean, just look at where we are today compared to where we were 20 years ago. Vegans 20 years ago just were literally on a planet all by themselves. The 0.00001% of the United States that was vegan back then, compared to the 0.5% that is now. There's still a lot of people, 1 million people in this country that are vegan, and that number is increasing every day. And as your numbers increase, your number of people increases. So you got to look at it from the bright side, that we are further into this. We have less distance to travel than the people did 20 years ago. And more and more stuff is available to us, and we can send out the message through kindness and compassion and tolerance and understanding of the people who are currently caught up in that web, and hope that we can plant a positive seed that they can take with them, and they may not become vegan for 5 years or 10 years or maybe never, but they may actually decrease the amount of meat they're eating. They may decrease the amount of dairy that they're consuming, and we don't know the positive change that we can have, but we need to be sure that it is positive, that the message that we're trying to send out. So that was just my little bit for today. I do hope that you enjoy these sorts of things. I need to know whether or not you're interested in knowing more about veganism, the journey, the travel, the destiny, the how to do it, the what to look out for, the challenges. I think it's important that we don't all just depict ourselves on here as the perfect vegans that never have any accidents happen to us. I mean, I've had things served to me at restaurants that weren't vegan that I discovered, not after I ate the whole thing, but, I may have taken a bite and said, oh, this is, but I don't ever deliberately order something. It's not like I can't pass up cheesecake because I can pass up cheesecake. I don't have a sweet tooth, so I'm fortunate there. I don't have anything that would, lead me to say, oh, I'm going to make this one exception. So I'm fortunate because I know that other people struggle with that, and I'm not going to judge them because of it. So it's not about being perfect. It's just about making the effort to the degree that we can. And I may be able to be more vegan, more of the time than somebody else might be able to. But it's not for me to say that, one way or the other is right. It's just about us doing the best we can in a non-vegan world and hoping that tomorrow is going to be a little easier for us and that we're going to have more vegans tomorrow. And I think that if we keep doing that, and before we know it, we will. Have a good day.